What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's Prince Easy coming at you again once more as usual. Yeah, you thought it was enough? Yes, I have even more updates. If you cannot believe it. So, let's get to it, right? I wanna issue a disclaimer, right? Copyright disclaimer for the all copyrighted material that's gonna be shared in this here video, right? So, without further ado, let's dive into it, right? Okay, so you wanna die on that white supremacy boat? Your funeral, okay? Your funeral. So this is what the Syrian president said, right? And believe me, I do have an update pertaining to this. I'm gonna call it the Syrian situation, right? Our vision is based on supporting the Lebanese state once again, strengthening its institutions and seeking solutions that everyone believes in. We are looking for economic channel between Lebanon and Syria, not military ones, right? As per the response of what Trump suggested, right? That the whole situation in Lebanon, Israel should leave it to Syria, okay? And of course, as usual, like I said, I do have some updates down the line. We shall see them. Yeah, apparently. But again, there isn't any confirming information that Iran actually hit this tanker, this UN supposed tanker, right? And of course, Rubio's Lebanon deal directly contradicts Trump's Iran's memorandum of understanding, and whatever they think about the 2050 celebration. So, this happened, and of course, the fangs and the masks are gonna come off quick. Believe me, and it is what it is. So, a long time ago, I said I believe that there is a character that is tweeting instead of Trump himself, and we done found out here. Okay, and like I said, this would be a problem, and now it's gonna be a problem, right? Because I don't know, this convoluted idea of ethnicity, people don't really understand that there's a difference between Arab and Muslim. They believe that Muslim is Arab. That's Western ignorance, if you ask me. Right? Like elite Western ignorance, right? And you're gonna have a problem as a nation, right? You're condemning Muslims, but you really want to condemn Arabs, but you don't want to seem racist, right? Sometimes, because again, you like their oil. But then you point to the religion. Now you have a problem. There are black Americans, black Asian, American Chinese, I mean, right, or Asian Americans who are literally Muslim. What are you gonna do about it? So, are people realizing that people are screwed and what is happening is unusual? That there is nothing usual about what is happening right now? Another this is my interpretation anyway, right? A Christian perspective. The world, the cross. Now you get the image. Quite familiar, if you ask me. Right? Again, how do we speak these days? References, right? So what is this referring to? Is it Greek or Roman mythology? Or is it Christ carrying the cross? So I came across this whole situation. These are the conditions they set for this man to be forgiven by their society. But people, again, I think they fail to understand the depth, right, of what they're actually looking at and how deep it goes. Yeah, Elon Musk is still at it, right, with the Neuralink and everything. Well, I promised I would make a video about transhumanism, right, and its many forms. I guess it's some kind of follow-up, because I don't believe it's the first video pertaining to transhumanism. But yeah, this is what happens, right? Additional strikes against multiple targets in Iran, June 27th, at the command of Iran in chief direction, after yesterday U.S. strikes in response of Iranian attack on MV Ever Lovely. Iran was given a chance to honor the ceasefire agreement, but elected not to when its forces launched a one-way attack drone that hit the MT Kiku this morning at 4:30 a.m. ET. The Panama flagged tanker was transiting near the Strait of Hormuz with more than 2 million barrels of crude oil. CENTCOM forces launched strikes today in direct response to continued Iranian aggressions against commercial shipping. U.S. military aircraft targeted Iranian military surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites, drone storage facilities, and mine layer capabilities. So still planning an invasion, huh? Commercial vessels transit through the Strait of Hormuz continues. U.S. forces remain vigilant, lethal, and ready. What are you doing in the Strait of Hormuz? You as Americans, it's baffling. But we are not talking about logic here, are we? Right? Optics and everything, right? And of course, I don't know what he expects the Iranian stance to be after issuing statements like this. I personally know exactly what I would do and what type of stance I would have, right? So, just like, I don't know, I predicted, or I don't know, it's the inevitable. So the other side, this is what is going on, right? They're calling it a big mistake, right? So, beautiful people from the Philippines, what happened to them? That is the history that is being avoided, right? And trust me, I know many historians, or rather fringe, right, what they would call fringe, who look into the fringe side of history, you know, and they wouldn't touch this with a pole, because I believe they have found out that they don't see themselves anywhere and everywhere they see, they know that deep inside they impose themselves there. And they are wondering, is what we have been saying true? That they were cavemen while we had civilizations? We're gonna see. Yeah, so the Germans apparently are on the bandwagon with the Egyptians to fight against this whole situation. And I do agree it's a very complex situation, but I do believe also it is partially becoming a bigger problem because of external influences. So when yesterday I said we brought you civilization, you gave us the sword, this is what I meant. And again, I know many, like I said, fringe side historians, right, who are not scared to go into rabbit holes to find the truth, right? Many of them, but none of them, the popular ones, and I know most of them, the popular ones, they never touch this subject with a 10-foot pole. Why? Because it would unravel everything they know and understand. It would undo, I don't know, years of programming that gave birth to what we now call white supremacy. And it will give it a spin from the elite's perspective. Why they're scared of the black man, the African. Why they're scared of the African. But hey, what do I know, right? This is probably AI generated, right? Yeah, this is chaos magic. Okay, this is chaos magic. We have many words for it. We call it good cop, bad cop, right? Here in Africa, in Tanzania, we say paka mafuta kwa mgongo wa chupa, right? And he's a pro, and that results in only one phenomenon, and that is confusion. So this woman here suggests that the problem behind the xenophobe rise in South Africa is partially due to Russia Rosatom nuclear power plant plan, right? So let me give you a brief of what they're saying. So one of the leaders of this xenophobic movement, as we have come to describe it, has been pushing, on top of his migration, or rather her migration stance, she also pushed for nuclear energy adaptation in South Africa, right? Meaning expansion, for that matter, right? Because I wouldn't call it introduction, right? And on top of that, she also suggested that NGOs should be under supervisions of the government, that they should report to the government to check how they go along with the nation's plan for development, right? I hope you're catching my drift. So those three things are all moving in tandem, right? The migration thing, the same person. The nuclear power plant thing with Rosatom, the Russian company, is also, and also the third, which is like I said, right? So she is speculating, right? The maker of this video is speculating that she has bundled all of these three things together and is using xenophobia as a rallying mechanism, right? A rallying mechanism to get support for these three things here, right? So why then you'd ask she would go to such extents, right? Supposedly. And what she is saying is that so-called environmental NGOs, right, environmental activists, have been a stumbling block towards the solution of the power crisis in South Africa. That's why the third aspect, right, pertaining to NGOs and how they're supposed to operate within the nation of South Africa. Right? Now, is it possible? Because she is speculating that the Russians are the one doing this, right, as usual. Right? As if Russia can just make a deal with a single person in the nation, and that person, trust me, is not this lady here, especially pertaining to nuclear power supply and stuff. There's a long chain of people that have to be on board, right? But again, one important thing that she speculated that I think is true, right? The other two aspects, I think they are righteous, right? NGOs should be under the government supervision, right? And of course, the whole migration thing and using xenophobia, that's not the way, right? I do not agree with that, right? And of course, the adaptation of nuclear energy, we need it, right? We need it. That's just, right? How comes these supposed big economies in Africa have like power issues and stuff? Now, it's quite interesting to me, you know, because I believe they are subjects, right, to the powers that be, right? And these powers that be give them I don't know, self-sabotaging advice in the aspects of economy, social aspects, and all of these things. And that results in the decay of society and economy as a whole, you know. That is what is happening. This is not about Russia, right? And again, this projection, right? And again, like I said again, everything they accuse others for is exactly what they are actually guilty of, right? People need to catch on to that. So, the brother, right? People thought that it was entertaining. No, he was trying to send a message. He was trying to send a message. And the message, as you know, the messenger only a gold tooth remains of him. And that's what they want exactly of the black man. Silenced and gone. And of course, those who partook of this evil are paying the price. That's just the honest truth. That's just the honest truth, that this is not only a European situation, but it was also an African situation. Our brothers and sisters partook in this atrocity. Remember the list I showed you of that person who was trying to get back in their good side? Yeah. So, they're planning ahead, right? They're planning ahead. Now, I don't know what they expect to come out of their rejection of the two-state solution, but hey, we're going to cross that bridge when we do, right? This is when we're going to know what is what, right? Because these Arab states, they think they could suck up to Israel and maybe they'll be okay. But they don't understand the forces that are coming to bear at this particular moment as this stupidity continues. Right? So this is how and if he gets re-elected, it's because, again, right, like I said, the spirit of the people, the spirit of the leaders, one and the same. Okay? One and the same. So anything that comes upon you, then you deserve it. Right? Yes, I'm speaking to the Lebanese too. Right? The Haitians are making the rounds again, right? They're eating the dogs, the cats and stuff now. Yeah. They are returning them after they destabilized the country, and of course with the hands of the Haitians themselves. This happened, and this is happening now. So I need people to understand, these times every action has a reaction. Understand, this is the age of high-speed communication, as we say, right? And this hive mentality that is designed, or rather, I don't know, formed for the purpose of aggression and inhumane behavior, it's going to cause problems, and a lot of people are going to die. Those are just facts. Okay, these things were not possible, right? Riots and stuff were not possible back then because there weren't infrastructure for communication like there is today. So, of course, the rise of the hive mind is also a thing, right? We call them echo chambers sometimes. That's just a hive and a certain mind that is catered to do a certain particular task. So what is the result? The organism eats itself. And that's what exactly humanity is doing as we speak. You cannot make it up.
right? The land of milk and honey. And if somebody were to tell you, please point it out on a map, you'd point to where Israel is right now, huh? This is unbelievable. Eh? This is what he says. Or rather, I don't know if it's the girl or him, right? We can't even tell the difference right now, right? We might need that verification, that Face ID and stuff. United States aircraft just struck Iranian missile and drone storage location and coastal radar sites for violating ceasefire agreement. Again, it is very possible that they never learn. There may come a point where they no longer be able to be reasonable. And will be forced to militarily complete the job that we successfully started. If that happens, the Islamic Republic of Iran will no longer exist. President DJT. Also, right, somebody once told me a long time ago, be wary of people who have three names. George W. Bush, ta, right? Most people have two names, but fear those who have three names. And they insist on those three names, right? It's quite a peculiar phenomenon. I just thought I would plug it in here. Of course, what he's saying is true. Your system is open. It's a free system for enterprise, right? And now we can truly say that fascism and the economics of monopolies, or rather capitalism, are one and the same. Right? Because what happens if their goals are not met? That is the bigger question. Right? They cannot sacrifice their bottom line. That is clear. We know that from the get-go. Right? That's why they are billionaires now. Right? A phenomenon that is also very new. It's a conspiracy. Again, high-speed communication. Right? Or, let me say, underwater sea cables. Right? So, he is benefiting from this system of free enterprise, right? That is becoming fascism. And he doesn't want these other ideologies like socialists, Marxists, and Democrats, and whatever that means, to ruin the system. He needs the system to remain free for enterprise. Right? It's not a conspiracy. We've been knowing this. Right? You just need ask. You just need ask. There is actual evidence, video proof out there, out of their own mouth, saying the black man, the young black man, is the greatest threat to Israel. Right? Even though some quote unquote FBAs, right, who trying to delineate, they misquote, right? They say the black American, right? Just like, I don't know, if the Moors somehow came back and pretended like they were not African because they were called Moors, you know. Right? I've even heard some individuals claim that, right? Nigga, use an African. No matter what name they give you out there. But I guess it's our fault, right? It's our fault. We African content creators. We haven't told you enough about Africa for you to be able to discern what is true and what is probably wrong. Right? Yeah. So of course, there's some real niggers out there, right? Because again, the Chinese are from Africa, from the Xhosa, our neighbors, personally from the south. Okay? They see the disease and they are addressing it head on. I like them. Okay? But again, it needs to be proactive, not reactionary. Okay, we will give you a space, right? You, all of you, most of you go viral because of black content creators sharing your stuff, right? We are rolling YouTube right now as we speak. Okay? Literally. I've been on YouTube for a long time. And when I tell you that, believe that. Right? We are dominating the airwaves right now. So, some people have fear of that, right? But again, we are not like them. They're projecting their nonsense on us, right? With their, I don't know, Confederate flag t-shirts and stuff. No, vintage t-shirts. This, I want Europeans, citizens, to understand this, right? The world is not in shortage of uranium. The world is not in shortage of fuel, okay? The world is not basically in shortage of anything, right? This might be hard for you to believe, but those are just the facts. So I'm just saying they're doing this psychological work, laying the foundation, right? Because they're projecting again, like I said, they're projecting because they're going to do something to you, right? They want to do it to themselves first to serve as ammo, right? So as later on you cannot point and say, hey, why you told us to cut down our, we have seen this before with the aircraft and stuff, right? Davos, right? They keep saying we should cut down aircraft and run time and this and that, and while they came in with their G5 fleets and stuff, right? Now they're gonna do this again to you. So now they're protecting themselves, right? Look at us. We are taking the initiative, right? We are taking the initiative. We are cutting down our power consumption. How about you? Then they're gonna gaslight you, guilt trip you, and then boom. But again, I need you to understand this. We are not in shortage of uranium, no fuel, no anything. Okay? Not water, not food. We could be happy. The world could be at rest. The air could be clean. But some of your brethren, dear Europeans, that's including the Americans, right, are determined to rule the world one way or the other. So they're at war with everybody, believe it or not. Okay, they might give you the impression that they like white, but to them it doesn't matter. Believe me. I don't think you have to believe. It's a fact. Look it up. Don't be lazy. Okay? These are the biases that all I'm saying is the culture of of Westerners sometimes is to glorify violence. Like I said, movies and movies being made about really evil people. You know? And they call this entertainment. You know? What is entertaining about Saw? What is entertaining about Dexter? What's entertaining? Like, seriously, let's have that conversation, right? And these are hits, right? How many movies about Hannibal Lecter? How many movies about Bonnie and Clyde? Those savages. Being good does not pay, does not get your attention. So I just gave you a deep dive into the minds of the youth, right? That's why they do, I don't know, awe-inspiring events, shocking, right? The shock factor. But they do it in order to get your attention. And it works the same way with the media. Right? They need to shock you with the footage. Right? Now I don't know if the whole thing is manufactured or not. Right? Because believe me, they can act it out. Right? Have retractable knives and everything with blood and the whole thing. Right? They need to shock you. Right? Stabbing on the train, stabbing on the middle of the street. Like I said, we'll get to that bridge when we do. I'll be interested to see what Egypt will do. I'm sure they will do nothing. I'm sure. I'm not even speculating. You don't believe me, huh? They'd rather fight Africans than... Okay? The Babylonian Talmud, that's where its roots came from. It's not Judeo-Christian anything, right? Babylon to Israelites was like Egypt and the enslavement there. So they have a whole preemptive war policy, apparently. So, circling back to the Kurds, other individuals who were the supposed dog on a leash of the Americans, right? They gave them weapons and everything. Yeah, that is what is happening, and that is just what happened. Okay? Now, what do you think your next MP is gonna be? So this is what I said about the Ukrainians and the Israelis. right, and the terrorists over there in the AES. It's not cruel, okay? It's not cruel, because the principle that all intelligent organisms understand, simply put in scripture: do unto others what you want them do unto you, right? If you are wounded and nobody is helping you, you would feel some type of way about it, just like the other person, right? That brings mutual consideration into mind when we are trying to approach something, right? So if one side has no consideration, does not even consider you a human, for the case of Africans, that was, they gave us a quota, that gives way to the most vicious type of warfare. Because when I shoot you, I don't see a person that I can relate to. I want to be alive as much as he wants to be alive. Hence, the purpose of war ends then and there. People come to other resolutions to their problems. But if this is lost, that's what you get: the barbarity of the Israelis and the terrorism of the Ukrainians. Some of them, I'm sure, they are fighting honorably. But we have seen, especially the Israelis. So this comment was under a video that was talking about what happens when real fighters are challenged by less skilled individuals who have faith in themselves, not actual skills to execute and plan. And he left a very important and very interesting point. Gang members are not the toughest nor most skilled. They are just willing to do things most people will not do. We call them morals. We call them doctrines of war. Yeah? We try to distinguish barbarism and war. But that only works if all of these two sides adhere to the conduct of war. Now I'm going to pose a question, because I know there are skeptics out there apparently. What has happened? Indeed, some of us have this idea that Russia has put on velvet gloves when dealing with the whole Ukraine situation. And that opinion is expressed all over the place, right? But that's not the issue, right? You are adhering to the conducts of war, right? That means the Ukrainians and the Russians, right? In this case, just for example, they are adhering to the conducts of war. They are striking military targets and military assets, personnel, equipment, and such. But what are the Ukrainians doing? They're installing air defense systems in civilian positions. The Israelis are deploying command centers in highly populated, or rather dense, areas. From that perspective, it is a sane strategy, right? It is a sane strategy. It guarantees that a person that adheres to conducts of war will never strike that location. Isn't that a fact? So then, how do you face such an adversary? Giving them the taste of their own medicine. And you only stop when they comply to rules of engagement. Okay, so again, that is the question that I need you to ask yourselves. Okay, since you want to stop these adversaries on their tracks. Okay, you must understand that there's a difference between both of you. Right? That time I called it, you are righteous. Right? But now is not the time. That will be dangerous for you. Okay? Me in a position of leadership, high position of leadership, and Trump comes out and talks about wiping us out of existence. Bruh. That is a very serious thing. That's a very, very serious thing. Okay, I don't even know how one can even fix that. I don't understand. Just to say it's a hard situation. Right? So when I talk about giving these individuals bloody noses, it's not because I don't like them. I like them. That's why I do them like that. Because the alternative is worse. Right? If they continue living in that delusion, that will be an existential problem for them, especially Ukraine, even Israel. Right? Okay? Because their behavior has been blatant. Right? It has been blatant. Right? And whatever they are doing, just cleaning up Gaza, blowing up schools, blowing up, like seriously, they didn't face no consequence, regardless of what the resistance think they are doing. They did not face the consequence of their action. That's why they kept on doing it. But if they had kids dead, if they had schools blown up, they would think twice about blowing up a school, wouldn't they? If they really wanted to go, then they would target the military. You need to add that calculation into your thinking process if you want to seriously put an end to this. Because that's the difference between you and them. Because they know for a fact you would not cross that line. They would kill your children, they would bomb everything, your hospitals, everything, raise the whole thing. And they know you would not do the same to them. Why? They know it for a fact. You would not do the same. Because you are nice. And that time has gone. Been gone. a long time ago. If that mentality worked, then wars would not be even occurring in the first place. Because the people come up against their leaders, like, what are you doing? But since the masses are docile, they need to be reminded that their silence has a price. Their inaction has a price. I mean, seriously, look at America. Like, let's have a serious conversation about all the wars America has been involved in with itself. And let's talk about the bases, the military bases. Do you think that's a good signal? Do you think that's a positive signal for the world? Do you think they are, I don't know, reverberating positive vibes with that move? What do the Americans think about it? Nothing. That's what I thought. Or else these bases would have been closed a long time ago. But the people don't give a shit. And then they are first to complain, oh, our children are dying, oh, la, 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 oh. People, they have whole supply lines over there, ready. What do you expect? So, Trump is a literal representation of America. Regardless if you like it or you don't, he is an accurate representation of you, Americans. Could not be any more accurate. Right? He is perfect for you. Why? Because God wants to show you the mirror in front of you, to see yourself. And you're not liking it. Then maybe that will save you. Or else, the sword it is. Now let's look at this. Most people treat posting on social media as nothing more than a fun hobby. Even when writing about important world issues, the majority of X users do not get rich putting their opinions online, but some do. Facts. Who is paying them? The answer often lies overseas. Foreign lobbies whose interests do not align with America's write enormous checks for influence to fill social media with propaganda. When regular people view these posts, they do not realize they are essentially reading an ad. Okay. First, let's discern one thing. Okay? This nature of projecting is not going to help you at all. It's not. And you have to realize when you're projecting. Because you're saying half truths. Right? You're saying half truths. The reality is you can be both. You can be both. This free enterprise, as the guy earlier said, this free enterprise situation that you have over there, they bought their way into it. Right? You say dollar is king. They had the dollar. They became kings. Then what's the problem? Okay? I do agree, right? Just like the whole situation in South Africa or the situation in the AES, even in Ghana, even in Nigeria, I know Mossad is involved, but Mossad is not the whole picture. Africans are also involved in that, and I've made it clear again and again that the Mossad will not be successful if you are not cheap, if you are not petty, if you do not see the bigger picture. if you sell your future, you sell your souls. Just embracing evil for the sake of money, you know. That's what your elites have done. And using the media. You're one of them, Tucker. Okay, so your whole problem is not migrants. Your whole problem is not external lobbies or foreign lobbies, as you say here. No. We are not going for that. Okay? Israel is partially the partial problem of the Americas. Yes. It's not the whole problem. Okay? You're not washing your hands out of this. Okay? You're not washing your hands out of this. Okay? Just like that school in Iran was blown up using American munition produced by American citizens in America. I thought you'd be more responsible with the explosives and stuff, with all the measures you take when producing them. But where they're used, you don't really care, as long as it's not on me. So Trump is the perfect representation of America. He is. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So what did you do? You need to look yourself in the mirror and truly aspire change. If not, then it is what it is. Okay? The world does not like assholes. We have enough of them. Right? We don't need them to be even more powerful to even contaminate the whole pool. Right? We quarantine that. We quarantine that stuff over there. Okay? So the CIA, American intelligence agency are running these ads. They are running everything. Right? The conspiracy to get to me, it's both of these countries using their resources because they have a common goal. How is that even so hard for you to grasp? Donald Trump's top social media advisor, Alex Broadwitz, is one of the most famous online strategists alive, meaning he knows the ins and outs of the industry as well as anybody. Join the Tucker Carlson show to explain in depth of this foreign influence campaign. I'm so confused. So, let's have a read. The latest diplomatic dispute comes 2 years after Mali severed diplomatic relations with Ukraine following the July 2024 battle in Tazawatam, where a dozen Malian soldiers were killed in an ambush. Malian authorities accused Ukraine of providing support to the armed groups involved in the attack. Burkina Faso and Niger backed Mali's position, condemning what they described as a foreign support for terrorist groups operating in the region. Later that month, the three countries jointly submitted a letter to the United Nations Security Council calling for action against Ukraine. I need to laugh, okay? Just right? Accusing it of supporting terrorism and threatening regional stability. This letter was circulated to the Council's 15 members, but no formal Security Council action followed. I'm just here. This is history, right? Like again, 2024. We're talking about events from that time, right? So, The Battle of Tizawaten, fought in the northern Mali in July 2024, marked one of Mali's military deadliest setbacks in recent years. Armed groups launched a coordinated ambush using heavy weapons, improvised explosive devices, and drones, killing dozens of Malian soldiers. The battle drew international attention after Indri Yosov, a spokesperson for Ukraine's military intelligence agency, said the rebels had received necessary information. Okay, let's pause over there. For a person, right, again, for my own benefit, I know most details what is happening in these battles, right? I try my best at least. And I can tell you, when it comes to intelligence, right? When it comes to intelligence, the Ukrainians don't got it. Okay? The equipment that they use is either commissioned by the Europeans or the Americans. Okay? So just like the drone attack on on Putin, that attack was not possible without the Americans actually knowing, or the Europeans knowing, one of the two or both of them, of these parties. Okay, now you might be not familiar with what is happening in Ukraine and how it has been going and who is providing what. Well, from just available information, the Americans are providing intelligence, and the Europeans, the UK, France, they're also providing intelligence and strike packages, quote unquote. Are you catching on? Okay? All I'm saying is there's a lot of people that we as Africans need to cut ties with. I'm just saying. So Ukraine does not have, okay, the infrastructure to launch a war and also take the same resources to focus them on Mali, to give them the appropriate information. No. No. Okay? That enabled them to carry out the operation. While Yusuf did not explicitly confirm Ukraine's involvement in the fighting, his remarks were cited by Mali as evidence that Ukraine had supported the armed groups, prompting Bamako to sever diplomatic relations with Kyiv. Wait, this cat trying to eat a snake. I was not kidding. This cat done caught a whole snake. So anyway, back to Kyiv. So, this is what is happening, right? And if you took your time to observe some video links that I left on my videos yesterday, you'd see that there's actually a Belgium member of parliament in the EU that tried to be honest, right? And made honest remarks that the Europeans are purchasing weapons, right? And these weapons have a very peculiar characteristic, that they are designed to be used in Africa. but not in Ukraine. So he's an insider. He should know. He has access to what the Europeans are actually purchasing. And he made this important remark that Africa should have its eyes wide open pertaining to this whole ordeal. Right? These niggas just come out here and just say we are purchasing weapons to be used in Africa. For what war do you think that they're planning to do that stuff? Right? And they all say the same thing, right? Bibi and Macron. Africa is our second home. We will never abandon Africa. And stuff like that. Some crazy work. What we got going on here, brothers and sisters, right? Yeah. I didn't want the snake to die, but it is what it is, you know? A cat gotta be a cat. I cannot be mad at bro. Cannot be mad at you. Don't. So anyway, I'm gonna put a pin on it right there, and we're gonna see each other when we see each other. Prince Easy, signing out. Love you. Bye.